Strata versus freehold. The long battle of which one should you be investing in. Do you get more capital growth out of a freestanding property versus a strata property? Often, a lot of people don't want to invest in strata purely because they think of the headaches that comes with strata. They think of all the capital works, all the things that you're liable for that other people not liable for, in a sense that even though you might be in a commercial premise, you're liable for all the residential stuff that happens. Should you be buying a freestanding property or should you be buying a property that is part of strata? Now, this really comes to your long-term strategy, but ultimately, if you are looking for growth or the best value return for your money right now in this market, then sometimes buying a strata property is actually way better than buying a freestanding. And I know that the adage is, but there is land and there's building. And when you buy a strata, do you not inherit other people's pool maintenance, the lift maintenance, the aircon, and all of the things associated with all the nitpicking that's part of the residential? But technically that's not true, because in commercial, if done right, if it's strated right, you've got to, and it's individual, and this is all part of your due diligence, is that when you look at the strataing, they should separate the commercial strata from the residential. And when you look at the commercial strata, it actually operates fairly easily compared to the residential. What does that mean? It means that in the commercial strata, there's no such thing as the pool maintenance. You will get some lift maintenance. You'll probably do a bit of a shared contribution to capital works, but you don't have the general nitpicking, because it's only about 3 or 5 or at most 10 in a giant high rise, right? So it's very well maintained and very minimal in cost compared to residential. But it still comes back in what gives you the best value and best return for money. Well, let me give you a scenario right now. Recently, I managed to secure 2 different properties for our clients. One was a freestanding building in regional Queensland. Now, it's around $2 million. They're going to get a 7% return. Now, most of this chase is for cash flow, right? So they're going to get the cash flow, but it's on land, it's on a good piece of land, and it's got a good return of 7% with a secure government tenant on there for a minimum 4 years, right? So it's a really secure standard investment, right? On top of that, for the same price point, I've also managed to secure a property that is half a floor on a 6-year lease for one of our clients this is a property in Melbourne, which is an office space, but that was 7.5% in terms of yield, right? But it is strata. Now, when we're looking at a yield basis, obviously when we're looking at yield as a cash flow basis, we're looking at, wow, 7.5% in an office space with a 6-year lease to an interior design company, right? Established, well fitted out, new building in Melbourne, Metro Melbourne. Should have gone for that, but that is strata, right? The one in regional Queensland is on land and it's 7%. I'm missing out 0.5% by being in regional and being on land versus being in a strata property and in metro. But which one is the best for me? Now, my name is Helen Tarrant. I help everyday Australians become wealthy through commercial property investment. This video is actually key to your investment decision and journey, because it helps you to decide whether you should be looking at strata, looking at freestanding, and if you had $2 million, which one is the best way to invest. And if this is of value to you, this video, I urge you to hit subscribe bell and the bell and pass this on and share it to everyone, because I really want to get the word out on how to invest in commercial property. Now, going back to that, you've got both properties are $2 million, give or take, right? One's a 7.5%, one's in Melbourne Metro on a 6-year lease, one's a 4-year lease on land. So we're talking significant amount, about 3,000 square meters, good building with a government tenant's been there probably for about 20, 30 years with a new 4-year lease, right? Now, which one would you choose? Now, for the average investor going out there going, well, you know what? I'm going to take the 7% with land, because even though it's regional, in the future it probably has more growth, more stability, and also I don't want to be in the Melbourne market, right? Because right now I don't want to be in the office space. I want to be with a government tenant, right? At a property with land that I could build on in the future. But now I'm going to challenge that thought, right? How am I going to challenge that is that, think about it. If it's all the same, with the $2 million that you've got, and you want cash in your pocket right now with this interest environment at 6.75%, on 7% yield, you clear about $5,000 in positive cash flow in your pocket. That's after taking out all the outgoings or the mortgage. That's 100% mortgage, right? So that's you taking the deposit, you're servicing the deposit from maybe a drawdown in equity, whatever it is, plus the commercial loan. You get about $5,000 in positive cash flow. Yeah, it's positive cash flow in this day and high interest environment. When the interest drops, you're probably going to make $15,000. The other side, you're getting a property that is a strata property. So you don't have the land, it's in Metro, it's in Melbourne, it's not in regional Queensland, and you're getting $10,000 in your pocket on 100% finance. So everything financed, you're getting $10,000. So you've doubled what you're getting in cash flow first in your pocket. However, is strata going to cost me more money? Now, if the property is relatively new building, still under some warranty, have had some checks, no real issues, yeah, you probably should put some money aside, right? So let's say that I'm buying the two properties and they're both $2 million each. You put some money aside, like say that out of the $10,000, you put $2,000 aside per year for capital costs. Over a 6-year period or a 4-year period, if you're comparing apples with apples, you're going to get about $8,000 or $10,000 over that time, where you can use towards any capital works that might come up in the property in those years, which might be unlikely, but you've got some money aside. So you're still doing a bit more. So out of the 10,000, you might take out 2,000. So you're 8,000 versus 5,000, right? Now we come to capital growth. Yes, in regional Queensland, land, tenant, all of those security. But remember, land growth is not as strong as it would be in the city areas. So even though you are getting a strata property, the growth of that property and how the market changes is still going to be faster than what happens in regional. So in maybe 2 to 3 years' time, so it might not be in the immediate, the next 12 or 18 months, but 2 to 3 years' time. Now, as the market builds confidence back into, let's say, Melbourne, and this could be in Adelaide, in Sydney, this could be done anywhere, but in a metro area, as the confidence builds back, more people, as the interest rate drops, can come back to this area because they can afford to. At the moment, everyone's in regional because they have to be in regional to be able to fund the whole investment, right? But right now, if they don't have to be, a lot of people are going to come back to metro because it's just safer, right? So you've got this tenant, and in 3 years' time, you have the markets changes, more confidence, more people coming into the market, and as a result of that, you are going to get a jump in that value. And that jump will be equal, if not more, than what you get in regional, because it's supply and demand, right? At the moment in regional, there's a lot of demand because the market pushes it over there. Because when the interest rate's at 6.75, you have to get a 7% for it to look better, for it to cover all your overall costs, right? But if the interest rate was at 5 or 5.5, then everything in the city at 6% starts to look good. And if your property is at 7.5 and there's a lot of demand, most of the time that's going to push the value up and that return down, because that's just how capital growth works. As the value goes up, the return goes down, right? So you're actually going to get more growth in a 3-year measurement, 3-year time frame versus the one right now in regional. But you are getting land. But you see, this is where it becomes such a fundamental difference in commercial property. A lot of people think land is going to bring the value, but it's actually demand, and it's actually what's happening in the local market and in the economy, as well as any of the rental growth that's happening in the area. Where you're seeing that in regional, you might get a freestanding property for the same $2 million. Sometimes in metro, if the idea is for you to buy again, that is really the key, right? To buy again, that is really the key, because as the market changes, and it changes a lot faster in metro than it does in regional, you are going to get more growth out of that property in the next 3 years, not in the next 2 years. The next 2 years, the regional is still going to look really good, but past that 2-year period, in the 3rd year and the 4th year, your metro ones is going to outperform your regional one, even though the regional ones is on land and this one is strata. So coming back to the question, should you be buying strata versus freestanding? Really depends on your long-term strategy. If your long-term strategy is to build wealth, not just to retire on a bunch of money right now, like you just invested into a commercial one and retire on a bunch of money, but to grow that wealth, recycle your deposit, and create a passive income stream as well as multiple properties, then the metro one is for you, right? And plus right now you can get more cash flow if you invest in an asset that the market is not looking at, which is your office or retail asset versus your industrial, right? But ultimately, how to formulate that and where to pick was the best return for investment, you need a professional team that live and breathe commercial property, that understand it. And that's what Helen Tarrant is all about, what I'm all about, and what Unicorn Commercial Property is all about. It's about guiding you, hand-holding you to get the best return on investment you can in this market through commercial property, and really building that long-term generational wealth, cash flow that you can live on for life, and that you can invest better so that you can live better. So, want to find out more about what I do, how I can help you? Link below, booking for that free strategy session, and I'll see you on the next video.